Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Coach Brad here with Action Coach and another installment of Business Spotlight. Today we're talking with Jared Schweers, owner of Key Element Media. Jared, buddy, how are you?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Man, I'm good. Bright sunny Monday today, and more and more of the markets getting released. It's good, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, it's we're going in the right direction for sure.
So tell me a little bit about Key Element Media, Jared. You founded it. You're the owner of it. So tell me a little bit what it's about.
I am the owner. I actually did not found it. So, buddy of mine I came in contact with when we first moved to Rockwall had founded it and had a partner in the business, and that deteriorated. The partner ended up leaving and doing something else, and so anyway, he had another business. So then he has two businesses he's trying to run. So I helped him out for a few years, ran the business for a few years, and then purchased it several years after initially working with him. So the company's about 15, no, it's more than that now. It's about 16 years old. I've owned it since end of '09. And, obviously we have evolved as things have changed. Like in the early days, social media, for example, was not something that we offered. But we offer all kinds of stuff in the digital space, websites, social media, pay-per-click ads. Some of it's just general digital marketing, is what you'd call that. And then you've got a more traditional marketing side of things, postcards and mailers, things of that nature. Of course, you've got graphic design that goes along with that, print, promo, apparel, all that kind of stuff. But what I love to do is absolutely web-based. So websites are by far my favorite, coupled with search engine optimization and pay-per-click ads. And so we kind of offer that suite of products to everybody, kind of become an all-in-one, one-stop shop sort of for their marketing, print, and promotional needs.
Awesome. So you've been the single owner of it for about 8 years now?
Almost 11.
Almost 11, sorry. So almost 11 years. So in 11 years of owning a business, Jared, what's the biggest surprise you've ever come across as being a business owner?
Well, I would say maybe the dedication it takes as far as is marketing yourself. And so, I think there's a misconception out to some extent when somebody like owns a business or they have an idea. And my clients, I experience this with them all the time, is they think, oh, I have this idea. I'm like, well, that's a great idea. But if nobody knows about your idea, it doesn't matter, right? There's nobody buying your idea because nobody knows about it. And so, the first 2 years of me owning it was kind of like starting over. I mean, it almost might as well have been starting a new business, because although there was a little bit of flow of things that were in the pipeline, and there were obviously a customer base to pull from, generating new business still had to be done. And so, my misconception there a little bit was, well, it's already an established business. We've got some flow going. It won't be that much, to get it going a little bit more. And that was quite the opposite, where it took almost 2 years, just like a new business would, to really, develop my own sphere of influence and network, and be able to get to a point where I was getting these referrals on a regular basis. In addition to whatever might come online or referrals from current clients. But as far as generating new business went, it was something I definitely didn't count on, didn't calculate for.
Yeah, it was probably one of the more surprising ones for me as well. It's like, from a marketing standpoint, operations standpoint, sales standpoint, buddy, it's you. That's it. And
Yeah.
And it can be kind of daunting sometimes. So along the lines of clients and exposure, which you mentioned, who is your best client? Who's your ideal client?
Ooh, that spans a little bit, but I guess if you want to get real great and specific, they're probably a manufacturing client. They're probably running $60+ million a year in revenue, if not a few $100 million a year in revenue. And they don't have a marketing team on house, which is pretty common for the manufacturing crowd. So they need help. They have money to get help, and they want it done. They just want it done right. And they definitely still care about budget, but they're not going to be ones to try and, whittle you down to just about nothing to get it done. They're willing to pay because in their eyes and in truth, they have a great benefit to gain from it. So those are the best clients, just because their profit margins are usually great. And so if they can get out there and be known as, a wired manufacturer for traffic lights, for example, which is one of our clients, those are tens of hundreds of thousands or even sometimes $1 million contracts that they can obtain from that. So if they rank well for it, it makes perfect sense for them. Lawyers are also great clients. They have a lot to gain from it. For example, if you ranked in Dallas for a divorce lawyer, you'd be pulling in, I don't even know what a divorce costs, but let's just say it's $3,000 or $5,000. That might be really low, or it could be really high. I don't know, but let's just say it's $3,000. They're getting enough traffic from that. If they rank well for it, they're making tons of money off of that ranking that they've acquired and paid to get. So those are great clients too. And then I love working with small business. And in some ways, it can be a struggle because they're starting out and they are a small business, and so they don't have a lot of funds to put towards it. But I try to work with them with what they do have and help them, kind of prioritize what they need to do, and put that money that they do have towards the things, the top priority. So I love working with small businesses. I wouldn't exclude them by any means. That's the majority of my client base, really, or smaller businesses. But in an ideal sense, I got to have some of those medium to larger clients that are really still considered small businesses. Most of those guys have 100 or less employees, but they do, work in a bigger space with bigger tickets, bigger dollars, and therefore they have a little bit more to invest in what they're doing with their marketing.
Yeah. Well, I have to say it's probably a good thing you don't know how much a divorce costs. So that's probably not a little tidbit of info you want to find out. So, Jared, since COVID hit, how has your selling proposition changed during the course of the lockdown?
Well, there's two things there. I have some clients that I understand where they're at. They gotta save every penny they can because they're almost shut down completely. There's no revenue coming in. And so for that, I get it. But for those that are able to, I've really recommended they either continue on in what they're doing at the same pace, or at a minimum, or at most, they would cut back slightly in it to conserve some money. So when I'm going to somebody, it's talking to them about, well, hey, this is the value that we're going to bring, and this is what we're going to be able to do for you. Ongoing consulting in times like these is one of it. I'm going to be able to tell you, hey, this is what would be wise to do during this time. This is, whether I'm managing your money or not, as far as ads and marketing go. Always here to give advice and my thoughts on it, and just what we're seeing in the industry. And so, if I'm signing on a new client right now, that's part of the things I go over is like, hey, I'm still here for you. I'm a stable enough company that this isn't going to crush, something like this isn't going to crush me. I'm going to be gone. Because that is one question I always get is, well, how do I know that, you're not going to be gone in a year or 6 months or whatever? And unfortunately, that is a very common thing in our industry. Web designers and stuff, they pop up all the time and they don't last 6 months, a year, and they're gone. And now you've given your website to somebody and you don't even know how to get in touch with them anymore because they've left. So that's something I remain consistent in explaining and offering to my clients, is new or old, but we're going to be here and we're stable enough to not be shaken terribly by what goes on in our culture and our society.
Yeah, so I would imagine that even before all this, that your sales approach was largely consultative. But I would imagine that given everything that's going on, you've had to take that consultative nature and inject quite a bit of empathy with it.
Totally, yeah. It's just if you would be able to do whatever you wanted to, it would be great. But the reality is that people still have to put food on the table and gas in the car and pay their mortgage and everything else. And so in those cases, that they're debating what to do with their funds, or should they pull them? Should they just keep going and kind of just eat it, so to speak, and hope for the best? We have that conversation and look at it and say, this is working for you in some regards, but maybe it's going to work best in this little small section. And so maybe for now we just go best, what's going to work best in the smaller section of things. And when things open back up, you get more revenue coming in, you expand back out to your full assortment of keywords or targeted audiences or whatever it might be. But in the meantime, you whittle it down, so to speak, to what is most likely to convert for you, which means it's most likely to bring dollars into revenue.
Yeah, so you mentioned it earlier about digital media companies being it's a very commoditized space, sure, but it's also a very volatile space. So people are coming and going all the time. Would you say that level of empathy that you instill over the course of COVID has been a differentiator for you amongst your competition?
I don't know. I would hope so. I don't know that, you can argue with anybody in these cases. I mean, obviously when I'm looking at a client, they're saying, hey, I'm going to have to pull some money back so I can, be a little more safe here, or, plan for my family a little better. Like, I get that. I got 3 kids. I got a family too. I have no issue with that, but it does affect me financially in the same way. And so, having empathy for anybody who's got to do what's best for their family is, utmost importance to me, as far as, just being understanding. And so I don't know about my competition. I couldn't really say, but I would imagine most are fairly empathetic as well. But I could see some being, frustrated by it, or if they're in a contract, holding those people to the contract. I have heard of that. And contract to contract. Well, a lot of contracts don't have a clause for pandemics either. So the best thing we can do at this time is be understanding and reasonable, and move forward together, rather than burning bridges, so to speak, which would probably be what would happen if you were not so empathetic toward the client this time.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It's one of the things I've learned over the last 4 years is that this is business ownership is a very incredibly small community, or small from the point of being really tight knit, and
Correct.
word gets around pretty quick. So
Totally.
I think that's absolutely accurate. So Jared, you've got quite a bit of experience underneath your belt owning a business and operating a business. What's a mistake that you made early on that might help out folks that are just trying to get their feet underneath them?
Well, I'd say I probably wasn't willing enough to let other people do things. And by that, best example would probably be invoicing, taxes, and all that. So to save money, right, you just like, well, I can do it myself. And this is very common for my clients. I can build a website myself. And the truth is, you probably could. But the truth is, it's going to be like me doing my plumbing. It's going to be somewhat right, but it's not going to be all the way right. And it's going to cause problems later on. And so, I think, as much as it is to outsource something in the operation sense of, hey, I need an accountant to look at my taxes, keep my books straight, and watch that and make sure that it's accurate, is important. And then the second part of that is hiring a good professional. And that good professional may cost a little more money, but that's gonna be better long term. And so in my case, I thought, oh, it's a small business, it doesn't have too many things going on, and I can probably do this myself. And I did for a couple of years, but quickly realized that I'm probably not doing it to the best of my I'm not following everything that there is to follow, so to speak. I'm not making sure that TWC stuff's filed, and you see all this other stuff that you don't even think about when you're going into owning a business. And so that would be what I would say I made a mistake on early on, was just thinking, I can probably manage this myself. And to some extent I could, but it's much easier and a lot more peace of mind to pay somebody who's a professional and have them do it and take care of it. And you don't have to worry about it. You can spend your time doing the work and getting more clients.
I think that's such a great lesson. And I think it's one that definitely small businesses, that's prevalent within small business owners, especially, early on in the business, and just trying to pinch those monies wherever they can, and don't realize that by doing that, you're impacting, you're obviously impacting your budget from a cash flow perspective, or a, invoicing or expense reduction perspective. It actually works negatively for you. I think that's a great lesson.
Totally.
So Jared, I've got your website, all your contact info, which we'll include with this interview, but is there anything else you want the folks out there to know about Key Element Media? Is there any special offers you got going around? Just basically anything you want people to know right now.
Not that I can think of off the top of my head there. We've always offered a discount to nonprofits and those that are, firefighter, police, et cetera, that own their own businesses, that operate in like a part-time or, side gig, side hustle kind of situation. Always offered discounts to those guys, male and female, not just guys. And during this time, I think the best thing to do is, if you have a question, just come ask. Like, fill out the contact form, pick up the phone, shoot an email, whatever it is. But I'd rather just provide my, expertise, experience, and knowledge to do this. And one, I say, defining point is, like I said earlier, it's like a lot of people can come and do a website. Like, you can learn how to build a website. And a lot of web designers that do it as a business, they didn't learn in school or anywhere else. They just kind of have an artsy feel to them, and they started doing it one day. And I'm a little bit of the opposite. Like, I did go to school for it. I learned, like, I couldn't use any kind of builders in college. We built by hand. You coded everything. And although those days are mostly over, there still is code involved. And so, point being is, um, you know, it's something that I've done for the better half of almost my life at this point. But for 15 plus years, I've been doing this in some form or capacity, including the last couple of years of college as I did some freelance stuff. But that's it's a big deal going forward. And when you choose somebody to work with, or if you have questions and you've hired somebody else to do it, but they're just like a freelancer, for example, and you don't really have an ongoing relationship with them, now's the time to ask somebody some questions, because you definitely need to be considering some things as you move forward and how to come out of this. What do you need to do as a business, marketing wise, to capitalize when the market is back to normal? Is your industry different than others? Some industries haven't slowed down at all. In fact, they might have even gotten busier than normal. So it just depends on your specific industry, on where you're at. But there's things to consider, myself included, on when we come back out of this. How do I market? Do I market any differently than I did before? Is there an opportunity initially that there wouldn't be otherwise? There's a lot of questions there to think about as you move forward, in coming out of this, as we all come out of this.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right, Jared, last question. Tell me, through the course of the COVID crisis, what is one thing that you've seen that's inspired you?
Oh, I think the common concern, and you may even say love for the neighbor, for your fellow human. Just the fun things took, like, right out of it. I did a website for a birthday party, 100th birthday party here, for a gentleman who actually ended up living, like, not even half a mile from me. But through way of different connections and different people, got wind of it. They needed a website. I was like, yep, I'll throw a website up for it. And so just to see those stories and those situations, you've got graduation going on right now, and other people doing all kinds of different things for senior graduations, who are obviously missing a huge milestone in their life right now. And then other things, examples, birthdays, anniversaries, all kinds of this. But just the common courtesy for your neighbor, and then the willingness to go support somebody you don't even know, who's missing out on a pretty significant event in their life due to the current situation, and being willing to go help them and do it. I think there were hundreds of cards at that parade for 100th birthday party. They don't really have family that lives here. They're the only ones. And so that was all done through just connections of people, that knew other people in Rockwall. And once you get enough of that going, all of a sudden you've got a pretty big crowd of people. And everybody just came willing to make signs and banners and balloons, and have a party for somebody they didn't even know, basically, while they drove through in a parade on a street. But those stories probably most impressed me and interested me during these times.
Yep, I totally agree. I've enjoyed watching it as well, and I think it was kind of a right time, right place kind of a thing. If you can say that about something like this, that the country kind of needed that, the communities kind of needed that, to be able to kind of remind us that we're all still human. Yeah. And there doesn't don't necessarily have to be that different in order to come together. So that's a great point, Jared. I appreciate you sitting with us. We've known each other for a piece here, and I've had friends that have used you. I've had clients that have used you, and can't swear by Key Element Media enough. So anybody who's listening that needs some web design or some digital media, that you're definitely the one to call. So thank you very much, Jared, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
Take care.
You too.